Greetings, Apollo doubters and believers and the occasional guy straddling the fence. Ouch. Let's talk hoax junk. You know, surveys show consistently that most people believe the Apollo program sent men to or onto the moon. But for those who doubt, the crux of the issue is whether it's physically possible for anyone to pass through the mysterious Van Allen radiation belts and to survive beyond them for more than a day or so. Well, every physicist in the world believes the VABs did not present a major obstacle, but what do physicists know anyway? Well, if Apollo astronauts can persuasively be shown alive outside Earth's magnetosphere, then the question of whether radiation would kill them becomes moot, and whether they could land on the moon then becomes much less problematic. This is a photograph of Earth taken by the AST-3 weather satellite. A kind librarian named Jean from the Space Science and Engineering Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison graciously helped me find this image and a few others. An astronaut did not take this image. It was taken by an unmanned spacecraft and transmitted back to Earth as data. Well, what's the significance? We'll see that in a moment. Obviously, NASA has offered photos and video they say were taken outside of the VABs. This video was broadcast live, approximately 2200 hours Universal or Greenwich Mean Time, July 18th, 1969, to audiences around the world. But can doubters be convinced that astronauts seen in this video were truly where they say they were? Well, consider the following two things we can all agree on. First, the astronauts are clearly in weightlessness. The longest time weightlessness can be simulated on Earth is approximately 20 seconds using aircraft flying parabolas. In this way, short portions of the motion picture Apollo 13 were filmed. But the video seen here lasts considerably longer than 20 seconds. These astronauts are in space. That's our first consideration. Second, watch as adjustment is made to the camera's aperture settings as Neil Armstrong prepares to point it to a much brighter object than the inside of the cabin. Moments later,
is Collins going to go in and look around?
The live broadcast from inside the command module becomes a presentation of the site of Earth and is obviously a handheld video. A human is responsible for all that bobbing and weaving of the Earth that we see. That makes sense in a weightless environment, and because this camera is not mounted on a tripod or some other stable surface.
I've been eating so much today, I haven't had anything to do. He won't let me touch it anymore. Right.
Now, if we stop right there, most will concede that human hands were holding that camera 177,000 miles away from Earth, as NASA says. And that's the end of the discussion. But doubters have three popular theories to explain how they believe we got these images without going anywhere through the radiation belt. Theory one goes like this. These astronauts, they say, are in space, but only in low Earth orbit. The effect of an Earth in its waning gibbous phase was created by placing a cardboard stencil in the appropriate shape in the window on the Earth side of the spacecraft. The video was then shot from the opposite side of the cabin. The clouds, the land masses, the oceans, a couple hundred miles beneath would give the effect of looking at an Earth far, far away. Well, the difficulty with this idea is simply this. As you can see in this demonstration by filmmaker ckikilwai, I think that's how he pronounces it, a spacecraft in low Earth orbit moves at 17,000 miles an hour. Being so close to Earth in low Earth orbit, the motion of clouds, land masses, and oceans below would be pretty obvious. Armstrong even described for the viewing audience on that day the land masses, oceans, and entire continents being seen.
Today there are a few more cloud bands on than yesterday when we beamed down to you.
That can't be done from 200 miles up. Theory 2 is a little similar. Instead of using a cardboard cutout to make the shape of the Earth, doubters say a transparency was allegedly placed in the window facing the sunny side of the capsule. all we're seeing is a painting or an illustration in transparency form of the Earth. Well, the difficulty with that contention is the portion of the video where the Earth is clearly moving in the frame of the window, while transparencies taped onto windows don't move. Theory number 3, and it's just a theory since no one has ever provided any tangible evidence of such an event, is that those portions of the video showing Earth were not live at all. The theory suggests that those portions were shot on Earth through a mock-up of a command service module window. And what we're supposedly seeing, they say, is an illustration or a globe in a studio. Well, never mind that no one has ever seen that globe. No one has ever seen that studio, any illustrations or any documentation or eyewitness testimony associated with this theory. The problem with that explanation isn't merely the lack of evidence, but this. The video broadcasts live from deep space came to us with a graphic identifying autograph, a signature, a time print. The weather patterns on Earth identify exactly when and from where the video was shot. Weather patterns are constantly changing, and so is the phase of the Earth. The movement is captured as a signature, an unmistakable fingerprint. The Earth phase alone has been verified already by YouTube filmmaker jcgmed. The shadows across Earth and Moon both looked exactly as they should have at that astronomical moment NASA says these live videos took place. But what about the weather? Well, that brings us back to that photo provided by that kind librarian from Wisconsin. The AST-3 weather satellite took this image at 21:08 GMT, July 18th, 1969. Apollo 11's live broadcast was just an hour later. Unlike the Apollo 11 transmission, the AST-3 photo was taken from above the Atlantic Ocean near South America. Still, the weather patterns visible over North and Central America match those seen in the still frame from that live Apollo broadcast. Let's see. First, let's identify the daylight terminator and the outline of our familiar continents. Now, notice these matching cloud shapes. Keep in mind that they are seen from different angles, but the matches are too close to be mere chance. This frontal system dragging from eastern Canada across the U.S. Northeast and into the Great Lakes. This low-pressure system over Honduras. This comma-shaped low-pressure system near Florida. This weather system near the Lesser Antilles. Clouds in the Pacific Ocean south of Mexico. And this crooked cloud pattern in the tropical convergence zone extending west of Colombia and Ecuador along the equator. You can try any number of other weather photos in history and you'll see these patterns are as unique as a fingerprint. Oh, sure, hardcore conspiracy theorists will construct more objections and more theories.
If someone will produce a 2-hour 9-part response video to explain the libelous and slanderous activities of the world's scientists and Apollo propagandists.
You know, theories are cheap, folks. Anyone can say this could be or that's possible. I don't object to people presenting ideas, but ideas alone don't help your case. They only demonstrate that you have a healthy imagination. For example, someone is surely going to say that I constructed the weather satellite photo. Oh, fine. But if so, present some tangible evidence that such an image didn't exist in 1969 and some friendly Wisconsin librarian didn't send it to me. Demonstrate that I was in on this dubious activity. Someone's going to suggest that the Earth video was created using the satellite images. You know, some alleged team of artists quickly concocted a colorful painting or a globe with the correct weather patterns within an hour. NASA technicians just rushed them into the studio and they switched back and forth from the astronauts floating weightless in low Earth orbit to the globe being filmed in the studio. It's all creative, thank you very much. But again, how cheap? It doesn't explain how we got the images of the Western Pacific. And can you back it up with any evidence? Who are those artists? Has anybody ever talked to one? Can you show us the studio? Was NASA really so brilliant to anticipate that some nerd like me would contact the librarian 42 years later to double check the weather patterns? They were that thorough, but too stupid to understand things like blast craters and whether stars could be seen during daytime on the moon or other simple photographic concepts? And how do you explain film like this live broadcast from 30 hours and 28 minutes into the flight? It seamlessly goes from a live shot of Earth with accurate weather patterns for that day, clearly outside a square window, and now watch carefully. It moves back to the weightless interior of the cabin, again to the Earth seen outside the opposite window, and again to astronauts floating weightlessly. Where's the cutout? Where's the transparency? There is no cutout. There is no transparency. No, the most likely explanation is that these are astronauts in deep space between Earth and Moon, and the weightless Neil Armstrong is holding a camera in his hands while video broadcasting a live image of Earth. The images are location verified and time-stamped by weather satellite images. We even have further corroboration using the film-based photos taken at the same time using 70mm Hasselblad cameras. Remember, that film had to be brought back to Earth and chemical processed. It clearly matches the live TV video and weather satellite imagery. Considering the colossal volume of data and testimonials provided by the Apollo program, the more rational conclusion is this: these were live images of the real Earth sent from men going to the moon. Landing there was merely a matter of duplicating maneuvers and techniques demonstrated by Apollo and Gemini missions in low Earth orbit. Now, if doubters are planning to insist that man never went to the moon, they're going to have to do it by showing that the actual landing itself was somehow impossible, because passage through and beyond the Van Allen belts clearly happened, or we would not have these images of Earth precisely on those dates. A Fox network program in 2001 also examined whether the VABs were lethal. I'll leave you with the words of Dr. James Van Allen himself, who responded to that TV show by saying, "The recent Fox TV show which I saw is an ingenious and entertaining assemblage of nonsense. The claims that radiation exposure during the Apollo missions would have been fatal to the astronauts is only one example of such nonsense." Now, do you believe him when he says these belts exist at all, but disbelieve him when he says they're not necessarily lethal? Make up your mind, folks. Enjoy the discussion and be nice to each other.